In 2012, there was a survey that was done that indicated 78% of Kenyans want to give back, and only 1% is already doing so. And I think for the last 4 years, it's been looking into this 78%. And I would say I've had like a really fulfilling 4 years. That's because I get to engage with most of you. I've sat down with you over tea. Like, this one of the first alumni, when I started my job, it was randomly writing to strangers and asking them, hey, are you giving back to your former school, and would you want to? So the first person I remember writing to was Gerald. And since I wanted to know why he responded to my text, I invited him for tea. And he had tea, and he gave me the list of the schools he's been doing that. And I know I've had lunch and teas with most of you. And those amazing stories are the reason we keep going, and a real testament of what to do.
You can tell the character of individuals with the company they keep, or the company they make. And Wanja spoke to my heart with what Future Fast identifies itself with. Myself, I am a product of a gentleman who I give high tribute to, named John Nganga. He's an inspirational speaker, he is a motivational speaker, but best of all, he's a mentor to very many students in this country. I bet you some of you seated here have heard of a Mr. John Nganga. He used to work with a company that was formerly known as Shell, and every Wednesday when I was in high school, and this is at Highway Secondary School, he would come in the morning and spend 10 to 15 minutes speaking to us. What did that do to us? Personally, it actually inculcated a culture of giving back. I would ask myself, why would a professional like this spend his time coming back to our school to speak to us? And sometimes we did not even pay attention, but he still did it diligently. Fast track, about 20 years later, it was my turn to go back to Highway. I have gone back to Highway, spoken to the students, mentored them, and the reason I was doing that is simply because I know that when you give back, somebody watching you looks at you as a role model and as a reference point. So my going back was to give back what was given to me.
As an old boy or girl of that school, just going to that school and the pupils seeing you, we are talking about pupils who have never been out of that village, deep buried in the village. Your presence there, it speaks a lot that I was here, I was in this class where you are in, I went to this high school, to this college, and I work here, and you can do the same. That, when it comes to motivation, when it comes to bringing the future of that kid to them, it works wonders.
One of the things that we did earlier this year was to have an event called Alumni Speaks, where we invited some former alumni to speak to the children, just to talk about what they're doing in their field. And it really, really inspired the children. We gave them awards for their participation in the extracurricular activities. We've been taking them on trips. The chess club went for their first tournament. So there's been a number of milestones, and I think what it has done is that it has opened up the eyes of the children and even for the administration to see that public school can actually be a good space to be in, that you don't have to be, the child who is oppressed or backward or not exposed. You can actually do great things even in a public school.
It's building up, and so we have a really huge task ahead of us because we have found that it's not just bandage. We can't just have bandage solutions in public schools. Like, we come into this hall, okay, let's fix the windows, let's paint the roof, and let's paint the walls. That is not going to help. It may help for a day or two, but we have to enter into the root causes of how these schools have really been destroyed.
What inspired us is the rate at which public schools are being grabbed in Kenya. So according to our statistics, 83% of the public schools in Kenya do not have title deeds. And we have 41% of schools in Kenya at risk of being encroached or being grabbed. So that's where now the Shule Yangu campaign was inspired, being started. It was started after the Langata Road Primary. And so far we've seen
challenges of schools across the country having issues with their land.
Each of us has a history. We have where we are coming from. And if there is anything that harbors so much of our history, it is the schools that we went to. We are connected in many ways to those institutions. And these institutions, even if they didn't make who we are, they at least contributed to the molding of us and what we are today. These relationships that we started long ago is a huge investment. We invested without knowing. It happened nearly organically. And yet, it's such now a huge resource from where we sit.
Who do you want to give back to as an alumni? You can either give back to the school, you can either give back to the students, you can either give back to a fellow alumni. So identifying if you want to give back as an alumni, where do you want to start by giving back? So if it's to the fellow alumni, is maybe a jobless alumni, helping them find a job. If it's to a student, they need that mentorship, that piece of advice that you have, that once you left school, you become this, or when you were in school, you were this, and now you're this. So that piece of advice that they don't have. If it's alumni to the school may need to fundraise for a few projects. So helping the school fundraise on those projects. So understanding where exactly you fall. The other thing was identifying the needs of the schools or the students that you want to speak to. So then you're not just doing a blind project based on your needs, but also giving back to a project that makes sense to the school.
One of the most incredible things about alumni engagement, to not just have that support and have that professional network, but also to have a network of friends across the globe. More schools, more alumni leaders than ever before are rightly so recognising that alumni engagement and alumni communities can add tremendous value to schools. There's more alumni activity happening in Kenya than in any other country in the world, and so you're absolutely not just leading the rest of the country at the moment, but everyone else.
Thank you all for being involved in that and giving your ideas. So the first thing that came out very clearly was that the National Alumni Association is not something that Future First is going to own and run, but rather is going to be owned by all of the people in this room. The alumni leaders must take responsibility and will be guided by experts like ourselves and those people that are looking to develop alumni relations across the country. And I think that was really important. The two pieces that came out really strongly were around governance and how the Alumni Association nationally could help each of the individual associations better govern their schools, be involved in their boards of management, and be inputting into the financial management of those schools, because that's something that you guys are clearly very worried about. The other piece of the puzzle that came out really strongly was around training. So there are many associations that are yet to start or are early on in their journey, and how do we support those that have yet to start, develop quickly, and also learn from the mistakes of others. And really, really clearly, as part of that, each of you wants to connect with others, and I mean that's why you guys are all here, but you want to be able to learn from the mistakes that others are making, and in order to not to make them again.
I want to talk about mentorship. I know that in this school, in the most of the people who are in Nairobi, they may not do so much about mentorship because it has been done. But in the rural areas, see where you can go and do something. I want to tell you, I come from a very dangerous rural area. My going there, just being there like this, when they see me driving, it doesn't matter whether it was a Toyota. To them, it's a motivator. Somebody who was from this school is now driving. To them, it means a lot. When you tell them what you can become, it means a lot. They know only about becoming a teacher. Now they know that you can be something else. You can go there and talk to them about career guidance. Many people do not know what you can become in those schools. Those who are now in town, I think they are privileged. They know all those things. We have that responsibility. The other thing is about volunteer management, as has been said here. Management. There are so many people who are willing to give, but there is no that platform. We are now in that management. All of us here are in that management because we are the ones who can bring people together and bring that kind of a platform where they can give.
Alumni can have wider impact than just mentoring or tutoring or sports days. And there was a lot of discussion around what's the wider impact of alumni. I mean, we got into some very interesting topics around sexual reproductive health, and how to develop good citizens as opposed to just good students. And I think that bodes really, really well. in terms of the National Alumni Association, but very, very clearly Future First, or whoever is involved in running and leading it, is just going to catalyse this association and not run it, because the owners are definitely going to be the people sitting to your left and your right.